This episode of the podcast is from a listener question, or two listener questions that I received on email over the course of the last couple of weeks, both within the space of about 24 hours. Now, overeating is a common problem. People try to launch headfirst into a calorie deficit to lose weight, to lose body fat, and they just end up not making the progress that they want because of overeating. Now, this is such a common program that I've done several podcasts on this in the past. Now, rather than sort of regurgitate the exact information that I've done previously, what I thought I would do is take these specific questions so that you get some context, so you get some understanding of a real situation that someone is in and how to apply some of that information, or how I was as a coach would start to approach the situation with a person. So hopefully you can take some parallels and draw some information from the answers to these two particular questions so that you can actually apply them into your own scenarios as well. Now, I'm going to paraphrase these questions to kind of boil them down to something a bit more manageable. I'm also not going to name any names to keep people anonymous as well. So the first person, their issue with overeating is that they felt like they were doing things right. So they were meal prepping 4 days a week, or meal prepping for 4 days a week in advance. They were training 6 days a week, but it was all kind of coming undone Friday through Sunday. So the meal prep had run out, it come to Friday through to Sunday, and everything had just kind of fallen by the wayside. They felt it was tough to find those nutrient-dense meals. They were toughing to find time to actually then prep for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it all just got a little bit on top of them, and therefore it started to crumble a little bit. So how I thought about this was, I like to think of things in the most simple way possible. Now, I don't mean to sound patronizing to anybody, but sometimes I find that the simplest things that I feel are super, super simple is that somebody might not know, because obviously I live and breathe this stuff every single day. So sometimes it's easy to lose sight that some of these things that I think are obvious are not necessarily the case for many, many people. So what I'm going to say is, some people might say, well, that's bloody obvious, but I'm just saying it because I want to make sure that everybody gets the information. If you didn't think of it, then there's an option there for you, and hopefully it helps somebody. Now, the first thing I'd say is, if you're in the process of prepping, now you don't have to prep in order to lose weight and things like that, but it can help. It can help with organization. Now, this particular person prepping 4 days a week, and then it comes unstuck. So the initial first reaction from me is, why don't you prep more days? So instead of prepping for 4 days, prep for 7, or prep for 10, or what I do, I prep for 20, because I'm weird like that. Mainly because I just can't be asked to cook every evening. Anyway, so then I say, well, okay, well, won't it go off? Well, that's what your freezer's for. So I used to work in a commercial kitchen. General rule is, once you've cooked it, you can keep something for 3 days fresh. Otherwise, it's got to be frozen or eaten. So when you cook something, let's say you are cooking 7 portions worth of whatever dinner it is that you want to eat, or lunch, or both, or whatever, is that I would have 3 days worth of food in the fridge. Then I would take the other 4 days and put them in the freezer. Then once Monday is out of the way, you take 1 tub and then you put it in the fridge to defrost. Over the course of the next couple of days, by the time you actually want to come and eat that, it will be fully defrosted, ready for you to eat. And then you just keep cycling that process until, it comes to the end of the week and you meal prep again. It's that simple. So instead of just stopping at 4 days, extend to 7. If that means you need to buy more Tupperware, go buy more Tupperware. What I did as well, because my freezer is so small, I bought a second freezer. Again, quite cheap and easy to do, but again, it gives you that additional option of being able to stay on track. Now, the other thing is understanding the patterns that you're seeing within your habits. So again, this is why in a coaching process, I would be getting someone to track in the first 3 to 7 days. And I would also be asking them lots of questions about their lifestyle to understand, right, okay, what are the patterns that we are seeing in your issues with your weight loss and your fat loss? So if it's always the case that Friday, Saturday, Sundays, that's it, it's always those days, okay, well, we can't ignore that. We need to understand why that's the case. Meal prep might be one of them, but okay, you're meal prepping for 4 days, and you know that you're going to go off track on that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So what is the plan being put in place for food on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Or are we just ignoring it and leaving it to chance? Now, if for whatever reason you maybe can't meal prep more than 4 days, maybe you haven't got the freezer space, maybe you haven't got the Tupperware, whatever it is, then we can still come up with strategies in order to stay on track for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You could have meals that don't require a lot of prep that you could have with you. So, for example, like another one that I just personally really love to use is soup and cooked chicken. Now, soup, depending on the soup that you have, it can be very, very filling, so you can have a lot of it. It's cheap, and it can be, again, depending on what type you buy, very nutritious as well. If you add in cooked chicken into that, you can make it quite a high protein, low calorie snack that's very, very filling. And basically the only prep that you need to do is to dunk it all in a bowl and heat it up in the microwave. That's it. And that's like a super, super easy way. There's no time. It's not expensive. It's an easy way for you to stay on track during these times when you think, okay, well, what do I do? And all these sorts of things like that. So notice those patterns. Also, you can take sandwiches are pretty easy to make. They don't take very long. All these different sorts of things, like salads and stuff like that. Or if you're going to a supermarket, again, you can look at the calories on the back of these packets. If you're tracking in MyFitnessPal, you can scan barcodes. There's so many different options available to you that you shouldn't really let this just become a thing that you allow to happen each and every week. The solution doesn't have to be something that is incredibly complex. It can be a really simple thing that just a twist and adjust to what you're doing helps you make the most amount of progress possible. So find those meals that are easy to make. Find those meals that are low prep, low cost, and enable you to take away the excuse of time. You want to, whatever excuse you have, there is an answer beyond that. You might not know what that is. You might have to seek out some help or something like that, but there always is going to be an answer. And then treat the weekends with a plan as well. Again, what I would do is start to think about, okay, well, why is the weekend different? It's only different in your mind that the weekend is a different day. Why does the weekend have to be a couple of days where you don't have the same level of rigor with your nutrition? Obviously, you're going to have social events and things like that, but that doesn't mean you can't actually prepare for them. It doesn't mean that, okay, well, I'm going out in the evening, so therefore for the other, 20 hours of the day, I'm not going to do anything with my nutrition. Really start to think about, okay, what does it mean? I'm going out tonight, I'm doing this and that and the other, or I'm going out on date night. But that doesn't mean you just ignore your nutrition or you just have no routine or no sort of thought process into what happens on the weekend at all. So really kind of take a step back and see, how are you approaching your nutrition, and does it actually make any fucking sense? Now, the other thing I would say is plan for those social events. So life happens and your diet should not be something that, you fit life around your diet. It should be the other way around. You want to have social events. You want to be more engaged with your family, your friends and things like that because you want to enjoy yourself. If your diet is based around, well, I can't do this because I'm on a diet, I can't do that because I'm on a diet, then that's not really a sustainable way to approach life. And when it comes to, okay, the diet's over, I'm going to go back to normal life, you haven't built up any idea, any strategies, any thought process, any mechanisms to be able to deal with real life situations. And you are going to come, as they say, a fucking cropper when it comes to maintaining the results that you have. And that's one of the reasons why you slip back into this yo-yo dieting process. So what I'm going to do is going to share with you a process that I get my clients to do. It's really, really simple, really, really easy, super, super easy for you to implement. What it does is basically take 10, 15 minutes, whatever it needs to be at the end of the week, usually on a Sunday. Now, sit down and look at your Google Calendar or whatever it is that you use. If you're on a paper calendar, Jesus Christ, get into the modern world. Anyway, and then you look at, okay, what social events have I got? What's happening at work? Basically, you want to tease out anything that is different to the norm. What could be different that is going to throw you off track, that you might want to plan for, that you might want to think ahead for? Start to get those mapped out into your diary so it's clear. Nothing is coming at you like a surprise or something like that. Obviously, there's going to be stuff you don't kind of plan for and you just have to roll with those punches. But, you don't want to roll into every week completely blind as to what's going on. You need to know, like, oh, okay, I'm in fucking charge of my nutrition here. I know what the hell I'm doing. So think about that 10-15 minutes just to think about what happens in the week ahead. Now, let's say you get one of those situations where, okay, I've got date night and we're going out for a birthday party or whatever. Now, don't just stop there. Now think, well, what do I need to do logically in order to manage my nutrition to fit with those particular scenarios? Now, I can't give you this unless you're a client, but we have basically it is a tool where you input in on those days where you've got social events. Okay, well, I want 500 calories more, or I want 600 calories more. It'll automatically adjust all of the other days' intake to accommodate that so that you still hit a weekly average. Let's say your weekly average or your daily average you want to hit is 2,000 calories. If you bump up 2 of those days by 500, it'll tell you how to adjust the other 5 days in order to still come out at 2,000 calories across the course of the week. So it's a great, easy tool for you to start managing your nutrition so that you roll into each and every week in control, in charge, and on the front foot. And therefore, you're not really kind of wrestling with this overeating because of, in this scenario, overeating in this context is because there's no controls and there's no plans around what happens on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Obviously, there are huge amounts of other reasons why overeating happens to do with food choices and things like that. But like I said to you before, is that I wanted to be really specific about this is a specific problem about overeating with a specific scenario. You can go listen to the other episodes on overeating if you want the more generalized advice about how to deal with various other different types of scenarios that are related to overeating. So also, one other tip for you is know where your maintenance calories are. You may have a calorie target, which is based on a calorie deficit. Let's say that's 1,500 calories. Now, it's important to know where your maintenance is because this can help with the psychology of the process as well. So, for example, if you're at 1,500 calories and you overeat, let's say you overeat by 400 calories, and now you're up to 1,900 calories. Well, if your maintenance is 2,000 calories, you're still in a deficit. Even though you overate by 400 calories, you are still in a calorie deficit. Therefore, the actual thought process should not be one of, well, it should never be one of guilt or being ashamed or anything like that, but you have no reason to even doubt yourself, beat yourself up. Not that you should do that anyway, but really to kind of put things into context. Well, actually, okay, I ate 400 calories more than I had planned, but I am still in a deficit, so I still made progress. Yes, I'm going to see an increase in scale weight for other reasons unrelated to body fat, so that's not going to affect me, but I still understood where my maintenance calories are, so now I know that as long as I'm below that, I'm still making progress. So regardless if I overate, then I know where I'm at. So understanding that maintenance point is crucial as well. Now, the second question that came in, still relating to overeating, was to do with basically emotional eating and trying to reduce calories too much, and that's causing overeating. So from an emotional eating point of view, it's trying to understand that root cause. What is the root cause of that push to emotionally overeat? Now, if there are underlying psychological issues, maybe there's an eating disorder, then you really should go and seek professional advice. The advice shouldn't come from someone like me. I'm not qualified to give out advice on eating disorders and things like that. So let's assume that it's not that and it's something else. So what I would be doing in most cases here is that in these situations of overeating, it's a stress trigger, it's an emotional trigger, something like that, and your conscious thoughts has always been in the past to resort to food. Under stress, under pressure, food is the first kind of reflex action. And that's what we want to try and sort of train out. It's that reflex action that we don't want. So what I use with clients is what I call a conscious pause. And this is where you're going into a situation where you think you're going to, raid the cupboards, raid the fridge, whatever it's going to be, is you kind of just hit the imaginary pause button. You say, right, okay, you ask yourself 3 questions. 3 questions. And if you say these out loud, it's more powerful. You might feel a little bit of a twat, but it will actually help you. So one of the things would be is this decision going to serve me well and help me achieve my goals? Say that out loud. When you're going towards the fridge, maybe it's easier if you live alone like I do, but you're going to raid the freezer and eat 2 tubs of ice cream. Is this decision going to serve me well and help me achieve my goals? If the answer is no, you've already taken that conscious pause. You've answered that question. You're creating now a thought process. You're creating a barrier between yourself and making that decision. So rather than it just being mindless, you're now stopping yourself, conscious pause, asking you that question. The second question you would ask yourself at the same time, after you've answered that first question, is how will I feel if I go through with this decision? How will you feel if you go through with this decision? Will you feel elated? Is it going to solve that emotional issue that you're having? Is it going to make that emotional issue feel better? Most cases, it's probably not. It's not going to make any difference to how you feel emotionally by making that decision. In fact, it might make you feel worse. Not that you should feel guilty, but it might make you feel guilty. It might make you feel, oh shit, I've done it again and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying you should feel like that, but it might make you feel like that. The other question would be, how would I feel if I choose not to go through with this decision? Again, how do I feel if I choose not to go through with this decision? Again, that's like saying, well, okay, if I don't do this, then I'll be closer towards my goal. I'll have stuck to my calorie deficit. I'll feel a sense of achievement that I was able to work through this, work beyond this, and actually not give in to those feelings. Again, that conscious pause is really, really powerful when you're actually trying to solve these issues and stop this overeating. Now, you can then start to kind of build this picture together to say, well, actually, is this action that I keep reflexing to? It's not actually, A, it's not serving me very well. B, it makes me feel like shit. And then C, it's not actually resolving the emotional problem that I'm reacting to anyway. So then you can start to think, well, okay, this is not now a logical thing for me to be doing. And you can start to build up strategies that start to combat that. The other thing that you can do is something called an if-then strategy, which is what is referred to in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which I've mentioned before on the podcast, as an implementation intention. So this would be something like, for example, if I feel like it comes to 3 p.m. and I really want to raid the vending machine because I'm bored or whatever, then I'm going to eat the strawberries and have a glass of water that I brought with me to work, whatever it is. If this happens, then I will do this. And I liken this to like a military plan. Now, I'm not saying that you need to adopt military precision with your nutrition. We are not, preparing for war in Afghanistan or anything like that. But you can learn a lot from how military strategists actually approach the situation, because they don't go onto the battlefield with plan A. That's it. That's going to fucking work, boys. We're just going to do plan A, fuck the rest. They're thinking of all the different possible ramifications, the risks, how they're going to mitigate those risks. All of those things matter, and you need to start understanding what risks you're going to face and mitigating against those. The other point would be reducing calories. So if you're reducing calories way, 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 way down, don't. Make the deficit a little bit smaller. Be easy on yourself. 10 to 15% of the calorie deficit is more than enough to make good progress. So don't try and push the deficit too far, especially if you've got overeating issues. If you have got real significant overeating issues, question whether you should be even dieting or in a deficit at all. Maybe you need to heal your relationship with food, be more comfortable around food, be more comfortable around your habits before you launch into a diet. That's a huge, huge thing. So above all, it's about figuring out what the actual trigger point is, what the issue is, digging into that, whether it's an emotional thing, whether it's a habit thing, whether it's the fact that you shouldn't even be dieting in the first place. Understand why something isn't working and what you can do to change it. Often the answer isn't something fundamental, it's something a small tweak and adjustment that you can make. So don't be a passenger in your process. Don't be a passenger in your journey. take control of the wheel and steer yourself in the right freaking direction. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and got some useful information on overeating. If you did, I'd love to hear from you. Iron Paradise Fitness on Instagram is at iron_paradise_fitness. Tag me in an Instagram story. Always love to see that as well. And if you want to get access to some free resources, calorie calculator, free guides, all that sort of stuff, plus training and nutrition articles, I'll leave a link in the show notes to ironparadisefitness.com as well. But for now, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next episode of the show.